Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is that time of the week again. It is match preview showtime. And this week, Stephen Clements's Gills travel, a relatively short trip for us, to Buckinghamshire to take on Mike Williamson's MK Dons. The reverse fixture finished 2-1 to the Gills back in October. That was our first league game after Neil Harris was sacked. But a lot of water has gone under the footballing bridge of both clubs since then. And I'm pleased to say that I'm once again joined by a friend of the channel now. I think it's fair to say Jonathan Harries. He is an MK Dons fan. He is a contributor to the Real EFL. He's a very nice bloke. And yeah, like I say, must be third or fourth appearance now. You get to keep the proverbial match ball.
Yeah, it must be on my hat trick now. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. It's a real honour as always, and looking forward to this preview.
Excellent. No, always a pleasure, mate. Enjoy chatting football with you. First place to start is obviously recent form, and we will let the viewers know that we're having to record this on a Tuesday night, which is prior to MK Dons taking on their dear friends from up the road, AFC Wimbledon. So we usually look at last six, but what we'll have to do is look at MK Dons' last five, and then by the time you're watching this Wednesday evening, you will all know that result. So, Jonathan, Colchester at home 1-0, Crawley at home 1-0, Doncaster away lost 3-0, Tranmere away 1-2-1. Most recently got beaten at home frustratingly by Morecambe in about the 98th minutes. But 9 points from the last 15. As it stands, as we sit talking here, you sit seventh in the table. You got 42 points from 26 games. Obviously, that could have gone up to 45 by the time people are watching this. Gills, very similar, to be honest, because we can do last 6 games for them. So that's a 0-0 draw at Forest Green. That was preceded by a 2-0 home defeat against Crawley Town on Boxing Day. But then 3 narrow wins on the spin, 1-0 at home to Sutton, the same score away at Colchester United. Before that, come from behind victory at Accrington a short while ago by 2-1. And then, of course, the frustrating draw at home to Forest Green Rovers last weekend. That finished 1 each. So that means Gills have taken 11 from the last 18, which is there's no shame in that at all. And we currently sit 8th, separated by no more than 1 place at the moment, with 42 points from 27 games. But obviously, we want to talk about MK Dons. I think it just promises to be a really good game, doesn't it, Jonathan? I think if you look at, aside from Morecambe nicking the points in the last minute, you've generally been solid at home since Mike Williamson took over, and Gills have taken 7 from their last 9 on the road after having some problems before that. So it's got all the makings of being a really competitive fixture, hasn't it?
It certainly has, and I can't credit the job Mike Williams has done enough since he's come in. It was a sinking ship under Graham Alexander. Probably after the Gillingham game, I think fans really started to turn, and then we lost at home to Harrogate, which our fans couldn't accept, and then we were 2-0 up against Barrow, and then conceded a 94th minute wonder strike, and that was the end of it. And Pete Winkleman acted quickly, got Mike Williamson in within 2 days of sacking Alexander. So he obviously had a contingency plan. Went up to Accrington 2 days later. We lost narrowly 1-0. And then, as I say, it's been real good home form. Beating Bradford at home, beating Swindon at home, beating Colchester at home, which should have been more. That was a last-minute Ellis Harrison winner. We've also gone to Salford and won quite comfortably as well. But I think we played them at the right time. And as you say, we've had a few bumps in the road. The Morecambe one was really frustrating because it was a former striker come back to haunt us and Charlie Brown. But yeah, as I say, I can't complain. One of the form sides in League Two, and looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, and let's talk about Mike Williamson, and already, because obviously he has to be mentioned. He's done such a good job since arriving. He was appointed on the 17th of October, and in that time since, in League Two only, MK Dons have played 13 times. They've won 8, drawn 2, and only lost 3, scored 23 and conceded 14, and are rattling along at 2 points a game, 26 points from them 13. Compare that to Gillingham, just quickly, because I've been quite vocal in terms of reservations about Stephen Clements. But Stephen Clements has had 2 less games. So Gills in that similar period have played 11, won 5, drawn 2 and lost 4. 17 points at 1.54, which is not too shabby at all, to give Stephen some credit. And I suppose if we were to take 6 points from the next two, then the records are pretty much identical. 4 wouldn't be a disaster either. So I think my point is maybe I just need to give Stephen Clements the benefit of the doubt a little bit more. But anyway, obviously we want to talk about Mike Williamson. It's been a phenomenal record since he came in. Just, you've already mentioned how impressive you've been. I think it's fair to say, and we've had this chat before, haven't we, about Graham Alexander. I had you second in my pre-season predictions. I said your squad was very well equipped. It was as good a squad as I'd seen coming down out of League One, let's put it that way. And you looked at it and you thought, pound per pound, they should have the ability to go straight back up. I know it's not that easy. So does the fact that you've seen such a quick turnaround under Mike Williamson just emphasise the point that Graham Alexander was just the wrong fit and he was not an MK Dons type manager?
I think in hindsight, you're correct. I mean, Mike Williamson's still working with Graham Alexander's signings. He signed Alex Gilby, he signed Joe Tomlinson, he signed Cameron Norman. He started Max Dean as well up top. So he is still working with a lot of tools Alexander had. I think the problem with Alexander was he'd want to get the lead and then just basically sit back on it. And I can see some similarities with Bradford at the minute. He seems to be going through a phase of Bradford fans don't seem to be liking the style of play either. But anyway, but what Mike Williamson has just done is, I think what's helped is a lot of the players that were here previously under Liam Manning, Russell Martin, have picked up on all of his all of Mike Williamson's strengths. So they're used to the 4-2-3-1. They're used to wing backs bombing on. They're used to 2 10s behind the striker, all sort of chipping in goals and assists, and it just seems to have fit. And then when you add the fact that we've recalled Dan Kemp, we've signed his number 10 at Gateshead, Stephen Byrne, who's still to play as well. We've also got his right wing back on loan from Barnsley in Kieran Lofthouse, who we got from Gateshead as well. And then we've also changed the goalkeeper recently in Philip Marshall. And it was interesting. The assistant manager came out pre-match yesterday and said, I have no shame in saying they're going to be a passing side from the back, which is what you want to hear. You want to hear from your manager how they want to play, and they're unashamed in how they do it. So it's brilliant to see. Yeah,
and like you say, it's 26 points at 2 a game is not to be sniffed at, and it's got you right in amongst it again, hasn't it? You've mentioned one player there, and that's Max Dean. I think he's your top scorer with 12 goals in all competitions this season, which is really good. And I think when you look at the calibre of players that you've got, and it comes back to my original point, Jonathan, about saying that I think you had a squad that was almost ready-made to come straight back up. And obviously Mike's going to tweak it and adjust it slightly to fit his own sort of persona and put his own stamp on it. But it's fair to say that Max Dean's, sort of outshining some well-established EFL names in, Ellis Harrison and Mo Issa. And I'm not saying they're having poor seasons, but it must be great to see Dean flourishing as much as he has. And like you say, he's playing as almost a focal point in that 4-3-4-2-1 system. So yeah, how impressed have you been with him essentially?
He is a wonderful striker to have, and it's not only his goals, it's his work rate. He sets off the press. He sets off yesterday. Sets off the press. He on Saturday he was tracking back as well. Morecambe were on a counter attack, and he was the furthest player back, and he made a slide tackle as well. So he's willing to work for the team, which Mike Williamson said everyone has to put a shift in, and he won't accept anything less. I've got to credit Ellis Harrison because when he's come on, he's made a difference. He's scored. I think he scored at your place. He scored the winner. He scored a goal at Salford. He scored the winner at Tranmere. Scored the winner at Colchester. So he is chipping in. But Mike Williamson's also said basically Max Dean starting every game unless he's injured or really out of form. So as you say, 19 years old and keeping out league strikers like Ellis Harrison, Mo Issa, and to a certain extent, Jonathan Lecco is a testament to his character.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you say, I'm just looking at the scoring frequencies, and Max Dean's going along at a goal every 152 minutes, which is decent. It's 1.5 games essentially if you break it down into minutes. But somewhat ironically, Harrison's is slightly less. But again, it's because he's only started 4 football matches. So when you only get cameos and then you do score, so I mean, it's one hell of a pool of talent to be able to call upon. Harrison, Issa, Lecco, Dean. It's not a team that you think's ever going to struggle to create chances and score them, which is the polar opposite to what we've been for the last 2 or 3 seasons, unfortunately. Another player we have to talk about, I don't think you can talk about MK Dons without talking about this player, is Mr. MK Dons, and that's Deanlington, who's now up to how many appearances, you can tell me? About 8 million, isn't it?
Something close to that, yeah. He's like a fine wine, and I think it's good that Williamson's not playing him every game. He's rotating him with Daniel Harvey, depending on the opposition.
Yeah.
Because we all know Lewington's not blessed with pace. He got outdone for pace for one of the goals against Doncaster against Luke Molyneux. So be interesting to see if he plays tonight and Saturday, or whether he plays just the one and maybe gets a rest on Saturday. I know Daniel Harvey went off with, I think he went off with a slight hamstring injury on Saturday, so that would be interesting.
I'd imagine he'd be more suited to playing against us because we severely lack pace in all areas of the pitch. So he might be better suited playing against us and let someone else take care of El Hamadi tonight, maybe.
Oh no, there's no El Hamadi tonight. He's off.
Oh, of course, he'd be in the old Asia Cup, won't he? So
yeah,
of course, you forget that it trickles down to our level. But yeah, I'm sure there's players that Wimbledon have got that are quicker than most of ours. Anyway, but yeah, Dean Lewington, absolute club legend. You won't see another of his in our lifetime, will you? It's a ridiculous record to have played that many games for one club, and it's certainly something that you don't see in the modern game anymore.
Absolutely. I can't speak highly enough of him. Every defender that comes in always speaks highly of him. Obviously, when Jack Tucker came in, he mentioned that Louis took him right under his wing, and they played a lot of games together. And as you say, there's nothing more you can say. He just comes on, does a job, goes on, doesn't mess about. And for the fact that he's allegedly on a diet of Haribos and Diet Cokes as a snack is really good as well, and he's still going.
Gives us all a chance, then, doesn't it? I suppose. How is Jack? I know he's been recovering from injury, hasn't he? I assume he's still a couple of weeks away, or even more. Is it at the moment?
Yeah. Still no confirmed date when he's back. He is back running on the grass. Last I heard, I think. So that probably suggests that he's not too far away. I think we sort of miss him a bit, sort of the way we want to play out from the back. I'm not saying Warren O'Hara's a bad defender at it. It's just when Warren O'Hara has to move from the left to the centre, from the right to the centre, then we're a bit weak down the right hand side. So, as I said to you, I think last week when we were on the show with Gaff, I said Jack got the 2 man of the match performances first 3 games under Mike Williamson. So just goes to show that maybe having a defender as a head coach might benefit Jack in the long run.
Yeah, and like you say, in terms of how Mike wants you to play, I think that'll suit Jack. I remember the game at our place, and Anthony Stewart tried to play that role and was pretty woeful at it. Let's be honest. I think both goals came from errors from Stewart. He's a defender's defender, isn't he? He wants to head everything and kick everyone. I think if you ask him to do that type of thing, he becomes a little bit more uncomfortable. So it'd be good to see Jack get fit again, and fingers crossed that he can kick on again, because there is a good player in there. But I think he's just stalled in the last year or so due to varying reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the fact that we've had so many different managers as well. I think it was Liam Manning signed him. I think it might have been, possibly.
I think so. Summer we got relegated out of League One, wasn't it? Yeah, so I think it would have been.
And it was. I don't think people realise what a coup it was, because I believe Sheffield Wednesday were sniffing around him as well at the time. I'm not sure if that was the case. I know a few Wednesday fans had said that they were interested. So for us to beat Sheffield Wednesday to Tucker was just brilliant. So I'm not quite sure if it's location based, because I'm not sure if he lives in Buckinghamshire or whether he travels from Kent or what. But as I said, it's not quite happened for Jack, but I think once he gets into the groove, I think we'll see the best of Jack Tucker.
Absolutely, and he's still very young. He's a baby for a centre half still, isn't he? What, he's only sort of 23, if that. So he's still got loads and loads of time to develop and improve his game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, on to one final question before we
Yep.
look at potential team news. And again, I know it's going to be slightly difficult because you have a game to play before we pitch up at the weekend. But what's the aim now for the rest of the season? Playoffs, or is the top three still within touching distance given the form?
I think part of me thinks that the top three is still realistic, but then I look at the fixtures we've got. We still got to play Mansfield twice. We still got to go to Barrow at the start of February. We still got to go to Stockport the end of March. We still got to go to Notts County over Easter. As I say, time of recording, we still got to play AFC Wimbledon twice. We've got to play yourselves on Saturday, and it's so congested around that playoff sort of area that a couple of games you lose and you're out of the picture, and a couple of games you win, and all of a sudden you're knocking on the door of the top three. You look at what Crewe have done since the turn of the year, and I don't think anyone had Crewe as high as that in any of their predictions. So I'm one of these fans that takes it game by game. I think playoffs is the minimum aim, but as I said to you previously, we never do well in playoffs. I hate the playoffs as an MK Dons fan. So really, I would love to go up automatically, but if it has to be playoffs, it has to be playoffs.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're in and around it, looking at your sort of last 10, 11 fixtures, it's in your hands, and you're going to be going up against people that you'd expect to be directly around you. Like you say, you've got to play Mansfield twice in your last 10 or 11. You've got to play Crewe, you've got to play Stockport, you've got to play Notts County, Harrogate, dare I say. They still have to be in the conversation at the moment, I guess. So, but I suppose if you wanted to handpick a final game, if there was something riding on it, and no disrespect to them, you'd take Sutton at home, wouldn't you? If there was something that said, right, we need to win to get in the playoffs or the top three, you'd absolutely take that every day of the week.
Absolutely. But then again, we've sort of we do throw the odd sort of dummy results. So we do look good for 6 or 7 games, and then we throw in a Doncaster performance. So as you say, League Two is such a competitive league. You know yourself, you can beat the top teams, you can lose to the bottom teams, and I don't think people realise how competitive League Two is this season.
No, I think you're right. Like I say, it's there's a lot of teams that are going to be disappointed come May, because I said this right at the beginning of the season. There's probably half a division that thinks they can get in the top three, and then there's probably 16, 17 teams that thought they could get in the playoffs. So there'd be a lot of frustrated fan bases. But anyway, there's a lot of football to be played between now and MK Dons facing Sutton on the 27th of April. The more immediate concern is obviously Saturday afternoon for us. I'm not going to ask you to name your team, because obviously stuff could happen in the Tuesday night fixture against AFC Wimbledon, but I assume it's a case of continuity, consistency at the moment for Williamson. And if you don't pick any injuries or suspensions up in Tuesday's fixture, then there won't be many changes come the weekend, will there? Because it's a side that's operating well and getting results.
Absolutely. I know he's done it before when we've had a 3-game week where he's rotated the 10s and he's rotated MJ Williams and Ethan Robson as well. And it just depends on how much comes out of us on Tuesday night, to be honest, because as you say, it's a rivalry game and the stakes are quite high, like both fan bases, and it just depends how we come out of that. If we can come out of that touch wood injury free, and I wouldn't expect many changes from Tuesday, to be fair.
Yeah, that makes sense, like you say. So it's difficult. So I'm not going to ask you to try and pick an 11, because it could all change in the 90 minutes that you have to play this evening. So in terms of Gills, I don't think there's any injury problems. We've not heard of anything to come out of Saturday's draw with Forest Green. So fingers crossed Stephen Clements has got a full quota to pick from. If it was me, I'd probably make one change. And I thought George Lapsley was good at the weekend in a slightly deeper role to what he's used to. Both with and without the ball. I thought he was probably at least partially to blame for the equaliser, but aside from that, I thought he was decent. But I just thought we missed the legs of Dom Jeffries in there. So if Dom Jeffries is fully fit, that would be the only change I'd make. So it'd be a 3-4-1-2 for me. So that'd be Jake Turner, Connor Masterson, Maxima, and Shadogi as the centre backs. Romeo Hutton and Scott Malone as the wing backs. Jeffries with Ethan Coleman, and then I'd have Connor Mahoney behind Macaulay Bonne and Ollie Hawkins. Bench is getting slightly trickier when you've got everyone available, so be interesting to see how we go with that. Right, I'm very conscious that you've got to set off to Stadium MK shortly, Jonathan. So that final question before I let you go is score prediction for Saturday afternoon.
I'm gonna have to back them for a 2-1 home win. We've been pretty good under Williamson at home, minus last weekend. I think Gillingham are trying to play the same sort of system we are, so they're still trying to get used to how they play, whereas we're more experienced in it. I think the key battle will be out wide, as you say. You've got Romeo Hutton, you've got Scott Malone as well, against like Joe Tomlinson and either Lofthouse or Norman. So that could be the key battle. Be interesting to see who we start as striker, because did we start with Matt Dennis and Mo Isa up top at your place? I think we did, didn't we?
Have a quick look.
Well, I'm sure Max Dean came on in the second half.
Your team that afternoon was... Yes, yeah, it was a 3-4-1-2, and you had Dennis and Issa up top with Jack Payne in the 10, and then Tomlinson and Norman as the wing back those days, and then Gilby and Williams as the central midfield pair.
Yeah. So I'd imagine that possibly Ellis Harrison will get a start either tonight or Saturday. So that'll be interesting to see how we adapt to that. But as I said, I think a 2-1 win. I'll go with that.
No, that's fair enough. Like I say, you're playing well, and you've been picking up wins regularly since Mike Williamson come in. I'm obviously going to be positive as well, and hopefully we'll get a reaction to the frustration of the draw against Forest Green last week. We tend to have been better against the better sides this season, so for that reason and the fact that we picked up 7 points from 9 in the last 3 away, I'm going to say 1-1, and I've got Macaulay Bonne to score our goal.
It'll certainly be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a good test for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
They are, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Right, as always, mate, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate your time, and enjoy tonight's fixture as much as possible for a derby game. I know they're never ones that you really enjoy. You just want to get in there and get something and get out again to a degree. But hopefully, from our point of view, you get a couple of red cards and a couple of key injuries, and we'll see you Saturday.
Cheers for that, Matt. Thanks for having me on again, and good luck after Saturday, and might see you in the playoffs.
Fingers crossed. Right, Gills fans and MK Dons fans, if you are watching at this point, as always, thank you very much. Your support is greatly appreciated. We are just 92 away from 3,000 subscribers on the channel. So please, if you're new to this, if you like football, if you like Gillingham, if you like MK Dons, if you like League Two, or if you just like talking about football, please go and hit that subscribe button. The quicker we get there, the quicker I will do a prize giveaway, I promise. We'll be back at the weekend, as long as this cold has shifted out, for a match day live at Stadium MK, myself and Ava and whoever else we care to grab and get involved. So come and say hello. Looking forward to it. Hope the rest of your week is not too stressful. And until then, up the Gills.